Hi there, my name is Kevin Furman. You've reached some videos in the series Percussion Olympics, and this video specifically is about tambourine, as you can tell. So today we're going to talk about just basic techniques. I'm not going to get heavy into all the major stuff, but just the basic stuff, how to get a good sound, and then different types of tambourines and why you use them, that sort of thing. So as you can see, we have some different ones here. I've got this is we consider like a rock and roll pop music kind of tambourine. This would be kind of your standard headless tambourine. It could be used for different situations. And then you've got you'll see these every once in a while. These are a little bit more, say, on the kind of pop side of things, but they're smaller, so you can get different sounds with these. All right, so you can hear that each one has a certain kind of sound to it. Another one that's a little more for what we do in the band and orchestra world is the headed tambourine. These are all headless, so it has a different kind of sound. And you can also, things like that, where you're going to get a different type of attack, different type of sound than, say, that. So I want to talk mostly about the headed tambourine to start, and then we'll talk about how to play the headless ones in a little bit. They actually don't necessarily require as much technique, if you will, but you can certainly adapt what I'm saying about the headed tambourine to those. Okay, so on a headed tambourine, the main thing about this one is you've got the jingles, obviously, and then on the headed one, you're going to be playing on the head with your fingers to some degree. Usually you do not want to play with sticks on a headed tambourine. This head is very thin. You start playing with sticks on here, you're going to stretch out the head really fast. You're going to get little marks on it, and you will break the head very quickly. So no sticks on a tambourine. If it's a headless tambourine, you can play on the edge with sticks. That's completely fine. Sometimes I'll put it on a tray stand like this, or on a music stand with a towel, and then I'll play with sticks on it. It's not as good as it sounds, to be honest. It doesn't sound as good. It doesn't make as much sound. But there are cases where you have to go that fast. There's no other way to do it. It's fine. It's acceptable. I wouldn't do it on a headed tambourine. The only exception to that would be if you turn the tambourine over and play on the non-headed side. But I would avoid that. They're not made that way. They're meant to be played with your hands. So anything you use with sticks would be like a plastic one, like these kind, or a tambourine that's made for that. Okay. All right, on to headed tambourine. So as far as basic technique, there's a couple things you want to know. Again, you're going to be using your fingers, and you can use them in different ways to make different sounds. Also, the angle that you hold the tambourine will change the quality of the sound too. So I want to get to that first. So generally when you play, you want the rhythms that you're playing, you want them to be really clear. So you don't want to be really messy and, like, I can't really tell what I'm playing. You actually want it to be super clear. Right, so you want to make sure that is, the rhythm of it is very, very clear. Okay, so if you hold the tambourine, say, at a 45-ish degree angle, and you play, I'm going to talk about how to play in a little bit, but I'm going to talk about the angle and the type of jingling sound. You get that kind of sound. If I hold it vertically, then you get this kind of sound. Again, here's 45. Here's vertical. Okay, and if you hold it horizontally or flat, you get that sound, and then here's 45 again. Here's flat. So those two are similar in nature. On many tambourines, you'll hear even a bigger difference, but the 45-degree angle holding position would be what I would consider a dry sound for the tambourine. It has the least amount of jingling, moving jingles that happens. If you hold it horizontally, that's sort of the damp sound, if you will. It's got a little extra jingles, so they can move a little bit more, so you get a little bit extra movement on the jingles on that. If you hold it vertically, that's what I would consider a wet sound. You get the most jingles moving around, right, and then you get the most amount of movement. You'll hear it maybe a little bit more, even on this tambourine. You'll get the same sort of thing. 45, flat, right, you hear those extras, and then here, So even on this tambourine, even though it's not headed, you can hear a much bigger difference between the two. So all depends on how much difference you want. I mean, this tambourine is meant to be drier than most. So if you want that wet kind of sound, find one that's got a little bit more room for the jingles to move, and off to the races you go. So anyway, so you got your dry, which is 45. I would start there pretty much all the time, and then start to listen to recordings, or just listen to the piece of music and just think, does this need a different sound? Ask another musician, another percussionist that's been around a while, if you're not sure, or ask your director and say, hey, I learned about these different sounds. What do you think? Which sound should I use? And just go with what they say, and learn from there. So that's the 3 different types of sounds for tambourine. Now, playing-wise, couple different, well, there's lots of different variations on this, but I'm just going to talk about real basic stuff. One is to play with your fingertips, and I tend to think of it as you kind of make a beak with your hands, if you will, like a beak of a bird. So the fingertips, the pad part of your fingertips become the mallet, if you will. Right? And I'll tend to put them together or real close together. Okay, if I need to play louder, I'll play a little louder. Right? If I need some accents, I'll tend to start using my knuckles, or I'll use my, the flat part of the second part of my fingers right near my knuckles. So I'm not right on my knuckle, as like that, but more flat. So that gives me more of an attack, a little stronger sound. So that would be like an accent. Sometimes you'll see a marcato hit, and I'll actually do kind of a full-on hit with my hand and sort of slap my hand down, and I'm not trying to hit flat with my palm. I'm actually just trying to hit somewhat curved and part of my palm, so kind of on the outside of my hand. So I'm not trying to go really flat. I'm just trying to hit here and get a really nice kind of slap on it. That'll give me a nice marcato type hit. So those are your dynamic accents, if you will. Quieter just means don't move, right? Louder, really loud, and super loud, right? So there's your idea. So there's basic sounds, and then from there it's just play the rhythms that are written. If they're too fast, so let's talk about that one for a moment. If they're just too fast to play, like you can't move your hand fast enough, there is another technique that can be used, and that is, there's a couple of pieces in orchestra land that this is famous for. You do this, knuckles with one hand, you're going to play on your knee with the head, and then hit the other side. So that kind of playing is a little bit different. So sometimes you need it kind of loud, and you can't get it necessarily loud enough and you can't do it with it down. It doesn't have the right kind of sound, doesn't have enough volume. So the whole knee knuckle thing comes into play. I'm leaning right now. You could put your foot on a chair. You could kind of just put your foot up on a chair, and you can play it that way. All right, so there's some loud and fast type playing. Another one that's going to come up often is the tambourine roll. Okay, so there are 2 main types of rolls. There's the shake roll and there's the thumb roll. So I'm going to attempt to do both of those for you. The shake roll is not that difficult, and it's not shake as in just whatever, right? That's not it. So what you want to do is think of moving your hand back and forth like this, sort of like opening a door, okay? Or 4-mallet technique. If you're doing 4 mallets, it's very similar motion to 4-mallet type technique. But what you want to do is just move the tambourine back and forth evenly, so it's not like that, but just back and forth evenly. You can go sort of slow, not too slow, because then it starts to sound like just a rhythm or some weird thing. So you got to move it kind of quick, not crazy fast though. If you want to get more intense, you can speed up a little bit. That'll give you a little bit kind of a push crescendo. I tend to do this when I have a roll, say it's a half note into a quarter note. That's pretty common. So I want to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, now what I tend to do is start the the roll with kind of a hit with my hand. So it looks normal if I'm going to start a note, and then I'll shake, and then I end with a hit. If it's an accent on the end, I'll use an accent with my knuckles. Alright, something like that. If it's got a decrescendo on it, I'll kind of put an accent on it and then bring it down. So I tend to want to start and stop in a particular spot. So it's not just start and then kind of end. But so it has an actual beginning and an end. So that just makes the rhythm a little bit clearer. So I tend to do that. The thumb roll, okay, now how this works is, what you're going to do, and I'm going to be a little bit gross right now, but what you want to do is you're actually going to rub your thumb around the edge of the triangle, tambourine, and get it to vibrate using friction of your thumb. And usually when you're in a concert situation, you're under hot lights, and it's hot and you're sweating a little bit, so your hands are a little tacky. So I don't usually need it, but in this case I think I will. So what you want to do, if you get it wet, moist, some people will use, they'll use water or whatever. Right now we're just going to do this. So how that works is, alright, so you're going to get the head to vibrate as you rub it with your thumb. If you try and press too hard, it'll kind of work, but not really. If you don't press enough, it won't vibrate. So you have to get the right amount of pressure and just get it to vibrate on your thumb. So, depending on how dry the air is, which right now where I'm at, it's semi-dry, and how much you're sweating, or you've got if you're a little bit tacky on your fingers, you may or may not need anything extra. You can just kind of go for it. If it's really dry and you're dry, then you're going to need some water or something. Now you don't want it really wet. This is not about like dripping wet. It's more like your thumb needs to be moist, and then you're going to rub around the edge. So sometimes they'll ask for the thumb roll, and that's what they're talking about. Okay, so there's the headed tambourine. Those are the basics. For headless tambourines, you're going to do a lot more rhythmical patterns. This is a really common. Alright, or say like 16th notes, accent on 2 and 4. Alright, that's super common, and you can do accents wherever you want. If you think of how to do that so it's not awkward, for me, I'm just thinking of it as like 1 and 2 and 3, and so I'm thinking of 1 and, so sort of playing this direction, and then the E's and U's, 1 E and 2 E and are happening because my hand is going back and forth. So 1 E and 2 E and 3 E. So I'm just, for motion, I'm not trying to think of playing all those notes. I'm just thinking of 1 and 2 and 3, and then the E's and U's work themselves out. If I gotta go faster, I'll move quicker and or less space, right? So I'll move less or faster. If I need it loud, I gotta move far to get those loud. So I just gotta move fast. Right? So if it's quiet, and I just don't move as far. If you need to accent some things, say you got to accent on E's and U's, you can reach around and accent like this direction with your fingers going this way. So if I were going to do like say 1 E and right, or faster. And since that brings up odd number groupings, because I'm doing 3 notes and then 3 this way, if you're doing, say, triplet-based things, that happens a lot where you're doing, like, say, triplet-based. You've got to work either side. 1 triplet, 2 triplet, 3 triplet, 4 triplet. So you can get whatever rhythms you need with accents or just highlighting certain rhythms by working on just, you've got the hands are moving one direction, and then you accent, put your hand where you need to be on the right count. So there's that. These other tambourines work exactly the same way. The thing I can say about this whole headless tambourine thing is, and this is really, it's kind of tiny thing, but every once in a while you need less sound, so smaller ones do have less sound. Just so you know, if you play a lot and you're going to be doing a lot of accents like this for, say 5 minutes straight, it can kind of hurt because you're going to just smack in your hand with a piece of plastic or wood. So what you want to do is really be careful that you're hitting it in the fleshy part of your hand. Don't hit any knuckles like up in here, right? And try to avoid hitting at the end of your palm. So hit more in the middle of your hand, just where the fleshy part of your hand is, and that'll help it not hurt as much. Also, you can kind of move it around a little bit, like hit up here and down a little bit more, down a little more, and then kind of move it around as you're hitting. That'll help it not hurt as much if you have to play for a real extended period of time. So if you're playing a gig with a rock and roll band that's doing that kind of stuff all night long, obviously you don't want to play tambourine for 4 or 5 hours straight, but if you can mix it up, like play tambourine on a tune, go play something else, come back to it, usually you build up some sort of, I wouldn't say callus, but you'll build up some resistance and it won't hurt as much if you're not just constantly playing. So there's the basics on that. And as far as playing with sticks, you just play with sticks on the edge. So there's not a whole lot more beyond this that I wanted to go through, but just remember tambourine, the rhythm of what you're playing is more important than the jingly part, although the reason they're calling for tambourine is the jingly part. You want to hear the rhythm of what you're playing. So with a headed tambourine, again, try to think more, play like that. All right, so kind of with your fingertips for general playing. With this guy, this is more for like pop and rock music. You're going to do a lot of patterns like this, 16th notes or 8th notes with accents. So just know those are the basic differences between the two of how you play them. Okay, well that's it for tambourine. Thanks for checking it out. And if you have any questions, the link to how to get a hold of me is in the description, of course. And we'll see you at the next video. Thanks a lot.